Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling World 247. I am here with the person that he claims himself to be the king of managers, Mr. Kenny Bolin. How are you, Kenny?
Well, you're already off to a bad start, because if I'm not mistaken, I think for the past many years, my name has been referred to as Kenny the Starmaker Bolin. Now, how can you leave the Starmaker part out?
I did. I forgot to put in...
Here is your aspiration to get involved in the wrestling business and be able to interview big wrestling stars on your program, and you don't even get the guy's name right on the first introduction. Now, how are we going to be able to continue with this interview?
I said Kenny Bolin, however, but this is true, and everyone listening, a little bit of a background of Kenny Bolin, legendary manager. He has this group called Bolin Services, and many people, famous people that are in WWE today, have been managed by Kenny Bolin. Pretty much before we get started, just tell us a bit about yourself, the name Kenny Bolin, and how you got started in wrestling and how it got going.
Well, the name Kenny Bolin is on my birth certificate. I'm one of the few people that actually use his real name in the business. There is a bit of confusion about that because some people said, nah, his real name is Kenny Rising. Well, that was an adopted name that came from a man named Johnny Rising who illegally adopted me. There was not legal documentation to make my name Kenny Rising, but it had been that way for so long that they went ahead and left it that way. Well, in around 84, I legally had my name changed back to Kenny Bolin. Well, I moved to Tennessee, got married, had my son, whose name, was born Chris Bolin. Now, you're getting a scoop here. I've never ever told this story before. And here I'm giving you a new up-and-comer in the podcast business a scoop like this, because no one else has ever gotten this information. But if no one listens to your show, then I still have hid the information, haven't I?
We have a lot of people listening to our show, so...
That's what you tell me, so we're counting on that. So, I moved back to Kentucky, and all my records were still under the name of Kenny Rising. So the state of Kentucky wanted to recognize me as Rising. My license said Rising. The birth certificate that I did have in possession said Rising. My social security card said Rising. So that's what it was. And finally, just recently, my attorney, Tim Dennison, who was also an attorney for Jerry Lawler, went to the Louisville court system for me and had my name finally legally changed in the state of Kentucky and worldwide to Kenny Bolin, which I had been going by since 1984 anyway, and when I started my first television show with Nick Goulas in November of 1987.
That's awesome. That's awesome to get that information, and people listening have listened to many of your interviews before have probably learned something new about that. You're like I said, you're a legendary manager in the wrestling business. Just tell us what was going through your mind when you just got your big break in the business and when you got started.
Well, the big break to actually get in the business, and this story I have told before, but for those that haven't heard it, I was in line at a service merchandise doing a return on an audio receiver. And if you want to talk about legends in the business, a few people behind me in line was Nick Goulas. And Nick Goulas was the dean of promoters in the wrestling business for years and years and years. The man that made wrestling famous in the South, which eventually led to a feud with Jerry Jarrett, another legendary promoter, where they split the company. Nick Goulas took half the wrestlers, Jerry Jarrett took half the wrestlers. And apparently Jarrett's judge of talent was better than Nick Goulas's, because Jarrett's went on and became some of the best wrestling ever in the history of Memphis wrestling. And Nick Goulas eventually went out of business and then started a company again, which I was a part of. And but he was getting ill, so I ended up moving to Louisville, eventually doing some work with Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling behind the scenes, ring announcing, shit like that. And then I found out that Nick Goulas had died while I was up here. So Nick really is the one who discovered me, so to say. We met each other in line, we talked. He liked my mannerisms, liked how I spoke. Wanted me to be a wrestler. He wanted to make me the next Jerry Lawler. I told him I didn't have much of an interest in the wrestling part of it because I'd wrestled in high school, was 212-0. I had done a little small bit with KWA wrestling, and that was more or less backyard wrestling before there was backyard wrestling. We wrestled on high school mats, after the gym was closed. A little friend of ours named Adrian Reynolds, who went on to get beat up and killed in the Louisville jail system here many years ago. Not funny, but that's just kind of how it played out. He had the keys to the gym. And Jim Cornette and myself started a little wrestling organization called KWA back in the late 70s, early 80s. And that was, for then, that is what backyard wrestling would be now, only we worked it like a real promotion. We didn't smarten up half the wrestlers. None of the fans were smartened up. Most of the wrestlers didn't have a clue because we didn't smarten them up unless we really felt they deserved to be. And we wrestled, and the only difference was that we really tried to win. And unless two of us thought we were smarter than everybody else, and that was normally me and Cornette, and we would work everybody. And I guess we did that for the better part of a couple of years, I guess. And actually drew some crowds that rival some that OVW is getting these days. We had some crowds that were 50, 60 people. Shit, I know OVW has done some shows here recently that they'd like to have 60 people. So not too much to be embarrassed about what we were doing for that day and era. And Jerry Lawler had given me the tights that he had turned babyface in oh Lord, to call the year might be tough. I would say late 77, maybe 78. And he gave me the tights he turned babyface in that night, a solid gray pair of tights. And those were what I wore for years. I wore Jerry Lawler's tights, and man, I thought I was invincible. I didn't think anybody could touch me. And I later got a reputation well established by Jimmy Cornette, is that I was the type of wrestler that would not put anybody over. So when Jimmy got into the wrestling business, he kind of put the word out, well, I think Kenny'd be a good part, he'd be a good addition, but Kenny ain't going to put nobody over. He's going to try to beat everybody. And I finally pulled Jimmy and explained to him, I said, Jimmy, we don't get paid much of anything to do KWA wrestling. This is a big payday. I'll do whatever the fuck they want to do. Well, he wasn't convinced of that. He still thought that ego would enter into it and that I would try to win my matches for real if I were a wrestler. He wasn't telling me this, but he was telling everybody else that. So it took me forever to get in until Nick Goulas gave me the opportunity. And then we went on and, of course, I got hired by OVW. That was 1996, so that's about 10 years later. Danny Davis hired me, and I was the announcer and manager there for OVW. And then eventually Jim Cornette came in. We started the affiliation with the WWE. Jimmy Cornette fired me from the broadcast booth as what I really loved doing and made me become solely a manager, and that's when I came back and formed Bolin Services for the first time, probably in August of 99, I believe. Yeah, August of 99. And my first ever graduate of Bolin Services that went on to full-time work in the WWE was a wrestler named Bull Buchanan. And then not long after him, we sent up Mark Henry. We sent Rico Constantino. That led to John Cena. That led to Sean O'Hare, Lance Cade, Jindrak, The Miz, Bobby Lashley, countless, Carlito, countless others. And then, of course, all the ones we feuded with, like Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, Simon Dean, a.k.a. Nova when he was here. Just about everybody we feuded with got called up as well. So you either wanted to be with us or you wanted to be against us to get attention from the WWE and to be able to get a call up.
Can you describe the experience if someone comes in and he just breaks in the wrestling business for the first time? He's green, completely green, and when you manage him and put them under his wing, do you have that sense of pride with your mentorship that they made it to the top level of the sport of professional wrestling by making it to the WWE? Do you kind of feel a sense of pride after you've seen someone get started in the business, now they're at the top?
I know I certainly do, and probably the reason that I have laid claims for probably being one of the best managers ever, if not the best, even though I was never on the full-time WWE roster. If you think of all the other managers that lay claim to greatness or others lay claim to greatness for, such as your Bobby Heenans, your Jimmy Cornettes, your Paul Heyman, maybe even your Captain Lou Albinos, your Jimmy Harts, guys like that, Gary Hart, you can name on and on all the great managers, and there's been a lot of them. None of them who already had been established, already were drawing powers, sometimes even elevated their managers. Sometimes the manager wasn't that well known until he got attached with a certain wrestler. That was never the case with me. Every single wrestler that I managed and sent on to the WWE, the only one who had any level of fame whatsoever that I ever managed was probably Mark Henry. Bull Buchanan had a little bit, but he was sent here basically to be done away with. They never dreamed he'd get called back up, and we proved them wrong. Mark Henry was sent here to lose weight that they didn't think he would ever lose, and they were pretty sure that they'd never see him again, and we proved them wrong. And those are the only two that really had any level of fame whatsoever. The ones I'm very proud of are the John Cena's, who they said he'll never see a day in the WWE. He's not what we're looking for. He is not going to make it. I told them they were fools. Jimmy Cornette even told them they were fools because he's blown a lot of talent as well. Danny Davis even told them they were fools. And he has mislabeled some talent from time to time. I mean, there's, not to blow my own horn, but if I said they'd make it, they all made it. I never once put a tag on somebody and said this guy's going to. As a matter of fact, there's a few I said don't call up that they did that actually made some good money themselves. Rene Dupree was one. I didn't think Rene was ready to be called up yet. And Ken Doane was another. They were both young, really had no clue as to what life was going to be like in the WWE. They needed another 2 years of seasoning minimum. They didn't get it, and now neither one of them are you can really find anywhere near the wrestling business hardly these days. Maybe Rene Dupree a little bit.
Well, Rene Dupree actually still wrestles like around the he actually runs a promotion too, and he's still wrestling, actively wrestling. But like probably like what you mean is not as much as he used to be.
Who are you talking about? You talking about Rene Dupree?
Yeah, he's still wrestling.
I was going on to finish up. Well, look who his father is. He's going to be around the wrestling business. His father, Emile Dupree, one of the great legends of Canadian wrestling. And yeah, Rene is around, but let's put it this way. Is he ever going to get a shot in the WWE again? Is he ever going to have a shot at being a world champion? I don't think that's the case. Ken Doane may have had a shot, but I think Ken's more into writing children's books now than he is wrestling. So, but those were the two that I thought got called up too early. I told them so, and I proved them right. They got called up too early. They were not mentally ready for what they got dealt with. The John Cena's they said wouldn't make it, proved them wrong. They said Rico Constantino was too old, wouldn't make it, proved them wrong. Bull Buchanan proved them wrong. Mark Henry proved them wrong. Countless times after countless times. Sean O'Hare proved them wrong. Lance Cade proved them wrong. Lance Cade did a fine job while he was there, and unfortunately had some demons he had to deal with. Mark Jindrak told he'd never see a day in the WWE, that WCW would be it. Proved them wrong. And there's countless, Gene Snitsky. Gene Snitsky was told he would never see a day in the WWE. He was up there for quite a while. Mike Mondo was told he would never see a day outside of OVW. Proved them wrong. So what I'm saying is I took these guys that countless times were told would never see a day in the WWE, never see the big time, and under my guidance and tutelage, they did. And a lot of that was learning how to be a bad guy, learning how to get heat, learning how to be a heel, learning how to make the crowd dislike you. Some people love to be liked. I love to be hated. And if I love to be hated, then damn it, you better love to be hated too. Because if you didn't, you were in the wrong place. It was time for you to get out and go against us. And that happened a few times. Rob Conway, another. Eugene, Nick Dinsmore, another. I mean, the list goes on and on. I can't sit here and name them all because there's about 54 of them that I managed that eventually made it to the WWE and made some money, and many of them earned over $1 million. Many of them blew their money.
Pretty much, you talked a lot about Jim Cornette, and as people know, people that are like a lot of big fans of the sport.
I've hardly mentioned his name here today. What do you mean you talk about him a lot?
You did mention him a few times, just briefly about Jim Cornette, and I was just going to go on that sidetrack of Jim Cornette. It's kind of I listened to some shows on YouTube. You guys had I listened to that debate the other day, but yet in the long run, you and Jim Cornette are still friends. Just describe your.
I think I said that Jim Cornette is not a good evaluator of talent. I think it's what I said, and he actually agreed with me once and was right. Should have agreed with me more often. What was your question about Jimmy? Are Jimmy and I, are we still friends? Is that the question you're asking me?
No, the question I was just going to ask is describe your overall relationship with Jim Cornette and what he's taught you and how...
Whoa. What Jimmy taught me? Is that the question you just asked me? Well, number one, I'm older than Jimmy. Many people don't realize that. They look at Jimmy, they think he's about 65 years old. They look at me, they think I'm about 35. Everybody thinks Jimmy could possibly be my father, is what a lot of people think. I know 10 times more about how to run a wrestling company than Jimmy Cornette ever hoped to know. Jimmy knows that. I'm a people person. That's why my wrestlers have gone on to maintain fame and fortune, and anybody that he managed is either dead or gone or forgotten about in the business. You can't name one wrestler that he managed who is still a vital part of professional wrestling today. Let me give you my credentials. I've got 3 guys I manage right now that are world champions. Rob Conway, NWA World Champion. Bobby Lashley, TNA World Champion. John Cena, WWE World Champion. And what did Jimmy Cornette teach me? It sounds to me like I might have taught Jimmy Cornette a few things. He just didn't learn very well. Because my guys are still functioning vital parts of the wrestling business. Jimmy's are not. Jimmy's running around to every convention he can get his feet into, trying to sell a tennis racket, trying to sell one of his goofy-ass books he's written, or trying to sell some DVDs. I, on the other hand, have formed a magnificent headphone empire, sell my T-shirts, sell my DVDs, and still have one of the top-rated radio shows in the country today. And when Jimmy's radio show was failing, which it is every week I'm not on, they call me to boost the ratings. So I'm a bit offended that you asked me, what did Jimmy Cornette teach you? I'll tell you what Jimmy Cornette taught me. He taught me the same thing my stepdad taught me. My stepdad taught me what type of father not to be. Jimmy Cornette taught me what type of promoter not to be. So there you go. You wanted an answer, you got it.
And like I said, I pretty much screwed up on that one. Case in point is that you're.
Most of it's learned by our mistakes. Jimmy Cornette didn't. Let's hope you did.
Well, the thing is too is like I'm just starting out and I'm starting to get involved with wrestling with this podcast stuff for sure.
I forgive you for that. That's not. Jimmy Cornette's been around forever. He should know better. You're brand new and you're trying to learn, and if you listen to me, you just might.
All right, so let's go on. You brought up your radio show, The Bolin Alley, and just tell us more about that. And actually, while we're on the same topic, you have this awesome headphone company going on too, Beats by Bolin. Tell us more about those two things.
Give me that again. You want to know about the radio show or the Beats by Bolin? Or?
Yeah, I want to know about the radio show and the Beats by Bolin so our fans could check it out.
Well, the radio show, The Bolin Alley, we're now in our 7th year. I think we're coming up on episode 5 this coming Friday. I never know the link. I can't remember the damn links. I just do the shows and they post them. It's hosted by Harry Burnett. He probably pissed at me for not memorizing the links, but they're always on Twitter, on Harry Burnett's account, on my account. Jimmy Cornette plugs them on his account, and you'll always find the links on my Facebook wall, which is facebook.com/Starmaker Bolin, Bolin. You'll always find the links every Friday. We go on live, not every Friday, but we go on live the 2nd Friday of every month. So this coming Friday is that. We'll be on live from London, England. Normally about a 1-hour show. And this is the 7th year of the Bolin Alley. Probably, from what the Honky Tonk Man has told me, Honky Tonk says I might not have invented wrestling podcasts, but I perfected them and made them what they are today. Wrestling podcasts were really pretty goddamn boring until me and my son got involved and started calling out other wrestlers and calling a spade. We didn't sugarcoat anything. And we made the wrestling podcast a little more controversial than what they used to be, because everybody still wanted to hide, and they didn't want to talk bad about their own companies, didn't want to divulge any dirt. Well, we didn't care. If OVW didn't like what we had to say, they could fire us. We didn't give a shit, because we knew we'd go to the next company and make just as much money. So we didn't care. We felt we were more valuable to OVW than OVW was to us, so me and my son didn't give a shit. And then once we retired, we really didn't give a shit, and that's when the shows really got interesting. I'm not tied to anybody or anything. I don't have to answer answer to anybody or anything. I have my opinions. That's what they are. You don't have to agree with them. I'm open, accessible to every fan that wants to write me. I normally write everybody back, as you well know. I've told you that I charge an appearance fee these days when you're going to get the manager of the 3 world champions of wrestling, someone who has the knowledge that I have of professional wrestling, someone who's into demand as much as I am. I normally charge an appearance fee to be on my show. That is, you got to buy a set of Beats by Bolin. You got to buy yourself a T-shirt. That way you win and I win. You've got some merchandise, I made a sale. A very nominal fee to get me on your show. And I waived that for you because you were brand new. I knew that 50 or 60 bucks might be a big deal to you, but because you were a young up-and-comer, Kenny Bolin wasn't going to be the man to hold you down. There's a lot of other people that might not do your show because they're prima donnas and pricks and want to act like they're more important than what they are. I never do that with anybody. I don't like my time wasted, so that's why I have to charge somewhat of an appearance fee. And that's not putting cash in my account. That is buying my merchandise, helping me out a little bit. And if you're a so-called fan of mine, then you should want to have my merchandise anyway.
Good point. Case in point, and now and everyone do indeed check out Beats by Bolin. Check out the Bolin Alley because.
And let me get into the Beats by Bolin. The Beats by Bolin basically started out as a joke. I wanted some headphones that looked like Beats that I'd found that had my wrestling logo on them. Anyone that knows me is bound to know about the BS logo by now. And yes, it is. It's a ripoff from the movie Battle Royale. Not many people are familiar with that movie in the United States, and we knew that, but those that are understand where our logo comes from. And that was my son's idea. He designed the logo. Well, just today, we had the Beats by Bolin logos made. We had a black version made for my black Lincoln Town Car. We had a white version made for my brand new Cadillac that we just got today. I'm going to be honest with you. Beats by Bolin headphones paid for that Cadillac. Totally out of headphone money alone, paid for a new Cadillac. Paid for by the fans. Those that support me, those that support the cause. No, not a brand new Cadillac, but a very nice one that looks and runs like a brand new one. I'm not a fool with my money. I don't spend $52,000 on something that's going to be worth $22,000 3 years from now. So, no, I'm not a fool with my money. But Beats by Bolin has gone extremely well. The sound quality is phenomenal, especially for the price. And what we do is this is how we broke it down. I have 2 sets of headphones I sell. Beats by Bolin, which if you buy the cable, shipping, and everything, the most you're going to pay for them is $39.95. You can get them for as little as $29.95. Or that is what we call the Kia of headphones. It's very nice. A Kia is a nice car. They run, $12,000, $15,000. And if that's all you can afford, that is a very nice car for you to get. Good quality car, good warranty, and suffices the needs. Now, if you're a real car aficionado, you probably want a Lincoln Town Car, or you want a Cadillac, or a Mercedes, or something to that level. Well, that's what my Monster M10s are. Now, they sell for $199.95 in Walmart. Well, I got a great deal through a distributor. I got, Lord, probably 70 sets of them. I've already sold over 40 of them. And they are the Cadillac of headphones. I am a headphone expert. I've loved and been fascinated by headphones all my life, ever since I was a kid, and bought my first pair of realistic headphones when I was a teenager. And these are the best that I have ever found for the dollar. There might be some $800 headphones out there I don't know about that sound better. Well, these don't cost $800. They list for $199.95. I sell mine for $79.95. That is well under half of what you would pay for them at Walmart or Best Buys or wherever. And if you buy more than one, if you buy 2, 3, or 4, you can even get them for a little less than that. And the more you buy from me, the better discount I give you. And I pass on the discounts that I get. I buy in bulk. That's why my prices are so good. You can't buy the headphones for what I do because I buy 50 and 100 at a time. Well, I got news for you. They sell pretty quick. I started out in November, thought I might sell 10 headphones. Well, we're sneaking up on early in August here, and we're just about to eclipse the 1,000 headphone mark, and that doesn't mention my T-shirts, DVDs, and various other items that I sell as well.
And that's awesome stuff for sure. And it just comes to show that if you just start a business at home and you have a good plot for it, you never know what it's going to turn out to be.
Well, and my son has said the same thing. He says, I never dreamed that your headphones, Dad, would pay every bill in the home and buy us a Cadillac. And I said, well, I didn't either. And not one dime of any other money that I have paid for those things. It was all done by Beats by Bolin headphones. And here's the other thing I'm proud of. Out of nearly 1,000 sets sold, I haven't had one complaint or a request for a refund. We have had, out of about 1,000 sets, we've had maybe 7 or 8 that were defective. Every one replaced for free on the spot. If you see me in person, hand them to me, you get them replaced on the spot. You got to mail them to me. Many times I'll have my distributor send them to you right from their warehouse, to where you don't even have to wait for me to get them and send them to you. I take care of my customers, and they all know that. And I'm very proud of what we've done. And what we've done is we've given people out there that would love to own a pair of Beats, or their kids, maybe they got 3 or 4 kids. Well, say you got 4 kids, and all of them want a set of Beats. Well, that's $1,200. Well, how many families have $1,200 to put in the headphones? And then you're still trying to get them dressed for school, feed them while they're in school, get them to school, get their clothing and uniforms and all the implements they need for school. Well, for 4 kids with me, for about $120, you can get headphones for the whole family. I've had some families buy as many as 7 sets at one time, because they said, I can buy 7 from you for right about the price I would buy 1 from the other company called BEATS. Well, mine is BEETS. And I did that on purpose. It is to show that they don't have to charge what they do. My quality is not far off from theirs, sound quality and physical quality. But the big difference is, do you really think they're worth $290 as opposed to mine that are basically $29? If you think so, you drop that $290 on them. Most people are not doing that anymore. And they sell themselves. When I have them out for display, people plug them in, they listen to them, they buy them. I don't have to do a thing.
All right.
And plug them in, if you like them, buy them. And that's normally what happens.
And it just comes to the point of, saving money and finding the right places to do that. And, of course, you just totally explained and backed up the fact that you have the cheaper option with headphones.
I'm a cheaper option. If you want Mac Daddy headphones, you can get those for me. $80 is a little bigger deal to some people, and I understand that. I don't expect everybody. I expect adults who are real audiophiles to save their money and maybe get into the $80 ones. But if you're not that picky, you're just listening to podcasts, or you're a casual listener of music, then that's one thing. The Beats by Bolin are more than good enough, and I've had many people put them on and try to tell me that my Beats sound as good, if not better, than the real Beats. And Jimmy tried to give me some grief the other day. Oh, you said real Beats. Well, yeah, they are the real Beats. I'm the knockoff. That's fine. I got no problem with that. When you've got almost 1,000 customers and they're all happy, that's more than good enough for me.
Oh, for sure. I'm going to ask 2 more questions here, and then...
If you want your Beats, contact me on Facebook, write my inbox, and just tell me what it is you like. You can go to my Beats by Bolin folder. There's about 80 pictures there of various types we have. We don't turn anybody down. You got a logo, we'll make it for you. It's a $10 upcharge. We'll put your logo on them. If there's a sports team you want I don't have, we'll get it. No, they're not licensed. We don't claim they are. My attorneys have told me that you own the headphones and you own the logos you purchased. You can put a sticker on anything that you want. So we're not violating any laws or crimes. I've got 3 different attorneys that have told me so. And we don't tell anybody our headphones are BEATS. We are making fun of them for charging so goddamn much for their headphones. It's ridiculous. They don't have to. They do it because you, the consumer, let them get by with it.
You mentioned me becoming an up-and-comer in the wrestling reporting and the podcasting business aspect of the wrestling business. What are your thoughts on Brady Hicks? Brady Hicks, he is a columnist for Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
He is a columnist for Pro Wrestling. Oh, I think I heard of him. Brady Hicks. I've heard that name. God, it's been years since I've heard of him. Is he still doing a column?
I think he still does his wrestling interview. He's kind of just like me, but he's been in it for a longer period.
Yeah, just like you. I'm doing an interview for you, and I haven't done one for Brady Hicks in probably 7 years. I didn't know Brady Hicks was still doing anything. I recall the name.
I don't. I just.
No, it was Tommy Fierro that was involved with Who's Flaming Who when I first started doing the Bolin alley, right?
Yeah, then that's where I got the source from about Brady Hicks, and then I just got to.
I remember Brady Hicks being involved with that, but I don't recall exactly. He used to think he competed with the Bolin alley, and then he fast learned that he did not. Me and Jimmy Cornette were the big dogs on that show, and Jerry Jarrett, we were the three horses, and then Jerry Jarrett, he just did a short little 5-10 minute show, and very scripted, unlike me, who me and my son were totally unscripted. We will not rehearse anything. As you well know, you had me call you at midnight. You and I had never spoke a word before until we did this interview. And I don't like to. I just want to, whatever, like I said, if you're going to ask me something, I'll give you an answer. You might not like the answer. And if I don't want to answer it, I'll dance around it or just tell you I'm not going to answer that. But me, Jimmy, and Jerry Jarrett carried Who's Flaming Who without a doubt. Jarrett went away. That left me and Cornette. And then we basically slugged it out in the ratings for quite some time. Jimmy had the worldwide fame, and I think people were honestly more entertained by me and my son's show. But because Jimmy had the worldwide fame, he would draw X amount of listeners just automatically. But whenever we did shows together, you really had something special, and that led to the Cornette Great Debate, which with all the different links to that shows out there, I've heard that we've had probably over 1 million listeners to the Great Debate. If you add up all the links that are out there and all of them that have been listened to on YouTube and various different sources and those that listened live that night back in December many years ago.
All right, and last question before we wrap it up. Pretty much, if you look back at your entire career in the wrestling business, what moment would you, if you could take away one moment from that, what would it be?
If I could take away one moment?
Yeah, just take one moment. If you could only have one moment, that you could just say you have one moment to remember only, what one would it be?
I would have never worked for IWA Wrestling, which many times I've denied I ever did. Anyone who knows who that promoter is, he is shit all over wrestling and pissed all over it ever since he's been around. Supposedly one of my friends worked for him this weekend, and he says, well, he hates you. Well, he hates me because I walked out the door on him countless years ago and told him I'd never be back, and that's when I got hired by OVW. I'm ashamed to have ever been associated with that company. But then again, that's where I met the likes of Dutch Mantel. That's where I managed Salvatore Sincere, my first ever WWE star that I managed. That's where I worked with the first ever Eddie Gilbert Memorial. That is so I've got some parts there that the memory that I like. It's the promoter's way of doing business that I was ashamed of, and that was why I left. So some things happened there that were good, that Danny Davis came there and discovered me, and that's what led me to OVW. I worked with Doug and Tommy Gilbert there. I managed Doug for quite some time. I feuded with Dutch Mantel, and we ended up forming a great relationship through that. I managed Timothy Wells and Stephen Dunn, who were a decent tag team in the WWE for quite some time. Salvatore Sincere was a blast. That was an honor to have him as my first ever WWE star to manage. Managed Flash Flanagan over there, and Lord, there were sometimes I'd manage 9 out of 11 matches a night and had to cut promos in all of them. So, if nothing else, I would say it taught me to think on my feet. When you got to do 11 promos and you can't do any of them the same way, it will teach you to think on your feet. It's not the way to teach anybody to do it, but that's the way I had to do it.
Awesome.
That is what I would take away. But like I said, some good things happened out of that, just at no fault of the promoter that was running it. I mean, these are things I made happen myself while I was there. But on the other hand, let me ask myself my own question. What is the greatest moment I've ever had in the history of wrestling, of my career? And if I had to pin it down to one thing, I would say it would be beating John Cena in a loser leave town match on OVW television, Jim Ross doing the commentary. And that was a huge thrill. That's something they could never take away from me. You hear all these wrestlers bragging about their wins and losses, and then occasionally I'll drop in, I'll be at a table with a shitload of wrestlers, and they're talking about their accomplishments, and I'll look at them and I'll say, well, how many people at this table have beaten Jerry the King Lawler? And they'll all look at me and they'll, none of us. Well, I have. How many people at this table have beaten John Cena? Oh, none of you? I have. How many people here have beaten Mark Henry? Oh, none of you? I have. How many people here have beaten the Iron Man Rob Conway? I have. Oh, well, you're the manager. You were the, well, hey, my matches were just as fucking real as yours. Fuck you. So if you're going to sit here and brag about a bunch of goddamn matches that were determined by a promoter and act like it's real, then I can do the same thing. And that really, John Cena, let's face it, he has gotten me more time on WWE television than highlight clips. Because every time they show old clips of OVW, there was one run for 2 weeks to where I was on Raw, SmackDown, ECW, and WrestleMania all in the same week. Not to mention all their bullshit side 1-hour shows. Sunday Night Heat, all those, those old 1-hour shows they used to have.
Yeah, and those are kind of cool back in the day.
Yeah, I was on every single one of those shows for 2 weeks in a row because of all the packages they kept showing of John Cena. And I got more calls and more emails a few years ago when John Cena was in the main event, and the package they showed of him coming out had about a little 2 or 3 second clip of me in it. That little 2 or 3 second clip lit my phone up, lit my email up, and my Facebook account to a level that I could not even respond to. 3 seconds. It wasn't even that. It was less than 3 seconds on WrestleMania, and everybody that knew me went nuts. Hey, we just saw the king on WrestleMania. Hey, you've done what countless others haven't done. You've been on WrestleMania. Well, yeah, I guess I was. So I owe that to Cena. Through managing him, he's gotten me an awful lot of television time, and plus I'm on his DVD, Our Life, which led me to make my own DVD of me and Cena called, his DVD is My Life. Let me get that correct. His DVD is My Life. Then I made a 4-hour DVD of me and Cena called Our Life. And then I made another 4-hour DVD of me and Cena, and this is where I beat him in the Loser League Town match, called The Rest of Our Life. And I sell those for $19.95 on Facebook. I take it back. I lowered my prices. I sell that now for $12.95 plus $3.95 tax and shipping. I lowered my prices on that. I forgot about that. I also sell a DVD called A Decade of BS. That's from 1998 to 2008. It's a 6-hour DVD of all the great rivals and feuds that I had in the WWE era with WWE stars, the ones I managed. Footage with me and Lawler, me and Bobby Heenan, me and Handsome Jimmy Valiant, me and Stone Cold Steve Austin, me and The Undertaker, me and Kane, all kinds of different stars that we had run-ins and feuds with. Not to mention all the local OVW wrestlers that we went against, the Conways, the Dinsmores, Bobby Lashley, of course, just countless others that we dealt with on there. And then it's a 6-hour DVD, and you can request those for me on Facebook, and you can PayPal me at KennyBolin@MSN.com. You can get about anything I've got on there. Just write my inbox, tell me what you want, I'll send you an invoice for it. And I certainly appreciate everybody's business, and maybe you can help me buy another Cadillac. It's a cheap one. Don't get excited.
Well, Kenny,
I didn't buy a $52,000 Cadillac.
Kenny, though I do really appreciate your time being on Wrestling World 247. First time you've been on. Hopefully sometime.
You certainly should appreciate it. This was actually, I'm going to tell you right now, because I'll tell you if it wasn't, this was actually a pretty damn good interview once you got the introduction right. You did everything the right way. You did it professional. You don't sound like an up-and-comer. You did a hell of a job.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.